Welcome to the Daily Dope Show. My name is Brandon. I'll be talking about alcohol versus marijuana. Which one is safer? I can't believe we're still talking about this, but we have to because it's a new kind of conversation that they're having over here on Reefer Madness. You know, stream of bullshit that never ends. And, when it comes to this one here, this has got to be the most disingenuous bunch of bullshit ever. Well, not quite. I mean, when people sit there and say that marijuana is a gateway drug to heroin or that, you know, somehow you can tie marijuana to this heroin problem, that's pretty fucking bad. That's disingenuous. And it's sad. It makes people that really are struggling with addiction, feel like nobody really cares about them if they're still focused on marijuana and acting like marijuana is some kind of a way you're going to solve, by cracking down on marijuana. You think you're going to fucking solve the opioid crisis? That's the kind of shit we're dealing with. Now we got to talk about alcohol again. And people that want to legalize marijuana, we love talking about alcohol, believe me, because alcohol is legal. And guess what? It can kill you. Guess what? It's everything about it is dangerous. It's a dangerous proposition to even fucking pick up a bottle of alcohol and start drinking it. For a lot of people, we're going to talk about alcohol a little bit, no doubt, in this video. But first, we're going to read this shit. We have two articles here. One of them's in Forbes magazine. Ever since I started this channel, I've been reading articles from Forbes, and they have a pretty nice staff of cannabis writers. I think there's three that really stand out. And of course, one of those being Tom Angel, probably one of the most awesome and most prolific writers in the game. But anyway, you also have these people. I don't know who Cheryl Jensen is, but this is just straight out reefer madness propaganda. Cheryl and Christopher Jensen, we report on auto tech and consumer and safety issues. And they don't care about grammar. I guess. I don't know. Just kidding. This is just ridiculous. We have to go through this shit constantly with cannabis. I say it all the time. Is what they do is they conflate cannabis with alcohol every step of the way. Because people that don't know about cannabis, they don't know that to them, they might think that when you smoke a joint, it gets you the same kind of intoxication that alcohol gets you. Because these people really, technically, they don't even really drink that much. And their experience with alcohol might be that it got them really wasted and they don't know what to. So they think smoking weed is like that. There's a lot of people out there that probably think like this. Well, let's see what they got to say about this one. Which one's safer, marijuana or alcohol? There are a few battles as heated as a discussion as to what's safer, alcohol or marijuana. There really isn't, man. Nobody's really trying to make the case that alcohol is safer than marijuana. And the only reason that this is a heated discussion is because when someone says marijuana is safer than alcohol, somebody starts talking shit, but they have nothing to say because they don't have anything to back up that argument that the marijuana is safer than alcohol. They can't say anything against that. There's no evidence, there's no anecdotal, there's no correlation. It's just flat out on its face, just the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So, like a professional tennis match, the lobs volley back and forth. Alcohol is legal, marijuana is not. You can't overdose on marijuana, you can on alcohol. You know what you're getting into, you know what you're getting with alcohol, not so much with marijuana. I don't know about that. Tell that to the housewife that gets beat up every time her husband, well, not every time, but sometimes when her husband drinks. As the discussion goes, so we decided to look deeper. Yeah, whatever. So alcohol, here's what they say about that. Alcohol may be legal, but there's no denying it's dangerous. In fact, the CDC reports nearly 88,000 alcohol-related deaths occurring each year. So just on that note alone, which one is safer? Something that can't possibly kill you, or one that fucking kills 88,000 people a year? Take a little time if you need to. Binge drinking accounts for about half of these deaths, as death can occur within 5 minutes of binge drinking. That's when someone takes a fucking fifth of Everclear and just tips it upside down and drinks the whole thing. You're dead. Alcohol is also linked to considerable long-term health issues, over 7 types of cancer, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular issues, obesity, and more. Turns out marijuana, on that note, is medicine, and it can help all of those problems. But the bottom line is marijuana doesn't do any of this damaging, long-term, crazy health effect shit. Cancer, no. Diabetes, no. Cardiovascular, no. Obesity, no. Reckless and criminal behavior increases with alcohol use. Again, that's dangerous shit. That's the kind of shit that reckless and criminal behavior that could lead to violence or death. So that is dangerous. Why would that's something that's really fucking demonstrably dangerous that we see all the time with alcohol. I get nervous when I'm anywhere where there's more than 10 people that are drinking alcohol, because there's always that one fucking guy that wants to be Mr. Asshole. All right, up to 50% of all domestic violence incidences occur when alcohol is involved. How is that number so low? I think it's more like 60, 70, 80%. Who's sober out there beating each other up in their fucking marriages or their domestic situations? Maybe drugs might be involved in a little bit of it, but drugs by comparison, and I'm not talking about marijuana, I'm talking about like meth and cocaine and crack and shit like heroin. Those drugs aren't huge in society. They're not big enough to account for like big percentages of domestic violence calls. So I don't know. I'm suspicious as fuck of that 50% number. Also, when they're talking about when alcohol is involved, that doesn't always mean that they denoted that in the record when the cops went to the spot. It's not always it's not always part of the record keeping. Let's just say that. And I think that's a problem too. All right, the odds of being in a car accident increased by more than 2,200% when drinking alcohol. Now keep that number in mind, because they're going to say something about marijuana and driving. All right, here, 83%. They say that the odds of increase. And believe me, them numbers are cooked. Even that 83% is a cooked ass number, because they're not talking about like you smoke a joint and go out and start driving and you might get in a crash. They're just talking about the statistics and the crunching the numbers. And I'll get into that in a minute, and how this is such bullshit, how they come up with the idea that marijuana and driving is dangerous, which I'm at odds with. I have no proof in front of me. There's no way you can demonstrate it without actually demonstrating it. So to me, it's just like each person is different. And if you shouldn't get behind the wheel of a car for any reason, then you shouldn't get fucking behind the wheel of a car for any reason. That's not to say that we can automatically say that smoking weed and driving is a dangerous proposition. Whereas alcohol fucking is. 2,200% increase in chance of becoming in a car accident. And that's not just because you drank something and then you got somebody broadsided you and you were totally not at fault. This is people that fucking get behind the wheel drunk and fucking cause accidents or crash into shit. This one down here with the 83%, we'll get into that, but it has nothing to do with fucking smoking weed and driving. We'll see. Alcohol can also lead to risky sexual behavior. We'll talk about that in a minute too. Increasing incidences of sexual violence, lack of protection, or infidelity. Can you picture anybody smoking weed and all of a sudden increasing their incidence of sexual violence, lack of protection? I don't know, that's kind of like I guess they're talking about when you're out there having sex with people you don't even know or something like that. Or even if you are in a relationship and you normally use protection, you're not gonna just like smoke weed and be like, you know what, I think it's cool. Let's not do that this time. Infidelity, another one where I don't see like alcohol is just one where yeah, your guard is down. You feel like you're just in the moment. You don't think of consequences as much. Alcohol does all that, and those things aren't well. The sexual violence, yeah, and the lack of protection could be dangerous too. Let's face it. Even the infidelity could get you beat up or killed these days. I mean, so it's all dangerous. Alcohol is danger, 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 dangerous, immediate danger, long term danger, fucking dangers that are costing society millions and billions of dollars, dangers. And fucking, you just don't see that with weed anywhere in society. So come on with your like, is weed more dangerous than alcohol? Get out of here, man. You can't black out on weed and start doing shit still. That's how a lot of people get in trouble. Concerning as well are the cases of alcohol-induced blackouts. Oh, wait, they forgot to mention. Drinking heavily can even lead to the brain's inability to create new memories. That sounds pretty bad. They always bitch at marijuana for this so-called short-term memory loss, which I think is a little overrated. A concern that's a little bit over exaggerated. The actual thing they're talking about, it's all mischaracterized. So let's see what they got to say about marijuana. Marijuana is often touted as the most misunderstood miracle drug out there, but is it really? It's terrible reporting when you do shit like that. That's not doing anything but making a claim sound like it's full of shit when you don't even provide any evidence. So let's see what your evidence is. While marijuana is often used to treat a variety of diseases such as cancer, MS, and studies have linked marijuana to an increased risk development for certain cancers, nope, that's not true, especially lung cancer. That's complete fucking bullshit. The studies I've seen, which were peer-reviewed scientific studies, looked at shit and decided that people that just smoke marijuana and not cigarettes never get lung cancer. People that smoke cigarettes without marijuana, they get lung cancer. People that smoke marijuana and cigarettes don't get lung cancer very, very often, if ever. Further studies are being conducted to establish the veracity of those links. Well, there is no fucking links, so those studies are all bullshit. Death caused by marijuana use is almost zero. Except for that it is zero, so I don't know what they're talking about. According to a recent study, a fatal dose of THC, the main chemical in marijuana, is between 15 and 70 grams. And I assume they're talking about pure THC, which I still think is bullshit. 15 grams is not going to kill even a mouse. This is such bullshit to even say this next sentence, but that equates to smoking between 238 and 1,113 joints in a single day in order to overdose on marijuana. The true LD50 number puts smoking joints at about 20,000. So you're just flat out wrong on all this. I don't know where you got that fucking information from, but it's just pure garbage. Who wrote this one again? Annie Grace, New York Daily News contributor. You're full of shit. I don't know where you're getting your information from, but whatever. Just the New York Daily News. I didn't expect much. That's not to say that other health risks do not exist. Marijuana use has been linked to anxiety, nope. Depression, nope. Increased heart rate, maybe a little bit while you're smoking it. Increased risk for heart attack within the first hour of smoking, something new they added to the heart attack thing. So now they got you paranoid that, that when you smoke weed for the first few minutes, really high sometimes. Maybe your heart does feel like it's beating weird or beating hard. That's all perfectly natural shit that happens when you smoke weed. And this heart attack thing is just total bullshit. They don't have any studies, any kind of like, okay, here are all the people that we know of that have heart attacks, and this many of them smoked a joint beforehand. And even if you did have that kind of a correlative study, which you don't have proof that marijuana was the cause of the fucking heart attack. And now another new one that I've never seen before is the suicidal thoughts in teens. No, the suicidal thoughts in teens come from all the fucking drugs you've been pumping into them. You've been giving teens Ritalin since I was a teen. You've been giving teens like Adderall and fucking Xanax and all this other shit that literally has a little sheet that tells you all the side effects on it, and suicidal thoughts is in every fucking one of them, including a lot of psych meds and a lot of schizophrenic medications that they give people. Chantix, the one for quitting smoking, comes with suicidal thoughts as a side effect. So, just sure, marijuana, I've never heard that. Never ever heard of the suicidal thoughts from marijuana, whether it be teens or otherwise. So whatever, And if somebody's in a mode, and a teenager is in some kind of a suicidal mode, I'm sure they're trying a whole bunch of different things to try to cope with life and deal with whatever they're going through. And marijuana might be one of them, and it might actually help them. So anyway, moving on. Most criminal incidences with marijuana use has to do with the possession or distribution of it due to its banned status. Bingo. That's the only dangerous thing I could ever find when looking through all the bullshit that they're trying to tell you about. Oh, this is what's dangerous about weed. And then they give you all these things that I'm reading with no studies to back it up. The one thing you can always find proof of every time is people getting fucking killed in these drug raids for marijuana. People's pets getting shot. People going to prison and bad outcomes there that would have otherwise been just a normal contributor to society. Studies show that driving under the influence of marijuana increases the odds of being in a car accident by 83%. So even if that was true, even if smoking a joint would make it really a little bit more dangerous for you to get behind the wheel, which 83% isn't a big increase for somebody, going from 0 to 83%. I mean, 100% means you're going to get in a wreck. All right. What was alcohol again? 2,200? You still got some wiggle room on 83. But again, that's a bullshit number, and here's why. Well, you'll see why in a minute. Marijuana use has also been linked to risky sexual behavior. Really? Including a marked increase in the number of sexual partners, increased risk of STIs, and unwanted pregnancy. All right, but alcohol, if you set marijuana next to alcohol on that tip, I'm pretty sure alcohol will dwarf marijuana, and marijuana's numbers on this note would be real insignificant. And I think the whole reason why you're talking about more sexual partners and then therefore more risky behaviors and inhibitions going away and all that shit, I think a lot of that has to do with people that smoke weed generally aren't that religious because they see through all the bullshit. Seeing through religion is part of one of the bullshits that you see through. And yeah, it's just really hard to accept some of the shit that, comes with that, like marriage or waiting until marriage to have sex or whatever. So anyway, that's all just, okay, sure, I'll even give you that one, okay. But is that really all that dangerous? It's not as dangerous as the things that alcohol does sexually. Remember that? You have risky sexual behavior, increased incidences of sexual violence, lack of protection, and infidelity. So at least when you're smoking weed, you're doing all this crazy, sexy stuff with people that aren't already fucking married. Unless they're also agreeing to do that with other people that are married. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a little bit of a stretch to say that any of that matters. Or that it's even any time comparable to, this is what this whole thing is, right? It's alcohol versus marijuana. So to even come in the same sentence to try to compare marijuana and how it turns you into a sexual deviant versus alcohol and all the bad outcomes that has with sexual everything, you're fucking being an idiot, pretty much. Most concerning with marijuana is its effect on the developing brain and long-term brain brain changes. Again, this is alcohol projection. You don't have any studies to say that this is true, so you're full of shit. Adolescents using marijuana have been shown No, no, they haven't. To have lower connectivity and reduced brain activity. That's total bullshit. I don't know where you got that from. I've seen tests and studies that, once again, they're correlative studies. They are where you take a whole bunch of cases of something and you look at it and you say, oh, this is what's going on. Well, what they do, is they see people that have this lower brain activity, lower connectivity and shit, and then they comb through that and see what they can find out about it. And they're like, oh yeah. Well, what about all the adolescents that didn't have that reduced brain activity? What about all the adolescents that didn't have the lower connectivity? Did you test them to see how many of those smoked marijuana? See, that's the problem with these kind of studies, is they're not real fucking studies. They're just you looking at the data and already having a conclusion. You already have a conclusion and you know the data is going to back it up. So you grab the data that will back it up. And that's true for so many of these things that they're talking about. Most true, though, remember the alcohol related driving bullshit. That's the one. Long-term marijuana use has shown significantly reduced memory and cognitive abilities. Nope, that's alcohol once again. And there's no studies that's been done. So I'm one of those people that are like, we need more studies. We need more studies to prove that you guys are wrong, or you guys need more studies to prove you're right. Because this one right here has been bullshit. No fucking studies to prove it. None. In fact, there's opposite studies that says people that have been smoking marijuana for a long time have better cognitive abilities than people that don't. Matter of fact, there's this thing called Alzheimer's disease. You might want to look that one up. What does science say in the long run? On the surface, marijuana use appears to be safer than alcohol use. That's not just on the surface. It's like everything you can say about it. However, both substances come with risks and potential long-term health risks, in addition to potential legal and relationship complications that come from using both. Simple problem there with marijuana is legalizing it or decriminalizing it. Which one's safer is still up to debate. No, it is not. No, it is not. You didn't have anything in here that even said marijuana was dangerous. Just a bunch of fucking propaganda that was bullshit. None of it true. Experts do agree that the safest option is to avoid both drugs altogether. I recommend don't do them at the same time if you're not like a seasoned veteran. But as far as the rest of it goes, you're full of shit. Whoever the fuck that was that wrote that. And this is another one that I ran into. So a third of teens think it's legal to drive under the influence of marijuana. I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm just going to take some things out of it and be like, first of all, what's this? They're acting like people don't think it's illegal. That's one study. And then they have another study down here where people don't think it's as dangerous to drive under the influence of marijuana, blah, blah, blah. So in both incidences, yeah, you're totally like right. It shouldn't be illegal. And in most cases, it really ain't, because you're not really fucking impaired. So they're the ones just inventing something that they think is something that they should enforce. And maybe they should, because if someone's way too stoned to fucking drive, then they shouldn't drive. I'll give you that. But you have to prove that that's the case. You can't just be like, oh, this guy had 5 nanograms of marijuana in his blood, so he's stoned. No, that's not fucking how it works, man. And what's this, by the way? SAD. And what they're doing here is they're feeding this new narrative that driving on marijuana is just as dangerous as driving on alcohol. That's a fucking dangerous ass narrative to try to be pushing out there. But fortunately, our youth today are smarter than this. Our kids today aren't fucking idiots. They know that alcohol is the one that sucks. Because everybody knows somebody that's a fucking drunk. All right? Everybody knows people that smoke weed too. And guess what? Your fucking stupid studies don't live up to the reality that they see playing out right in front of them. And this thing here where you take Students Against Drunk Driving, that's what it used to be called. It's called Students Against Destructive Decisions now. And that's so that you can get a lobby in there with a wider umbrella of causes and try to cram all this misinformation and bullshit down kids' throats. And that's what they're fucking trying to do on every step of the way. So here's a quote from somebody from Liberty Mutual, one of the people that do this study. Quote, I think we spend so much time in our culture discussing the negative impacts of the alcohol use that teens aren't hearing enough of the messaging from their parents about the perils of any type of impaired driving. No, it's called proper education, man. And you can distinguish between driving drunk and fucking, tell people that, maybe smoking weed while you're driving around ain't the best idea in the world. But what else are you going to tell them? You're not going to tell them that smoking weed is just as fucking dangerous as driving drunk, are you? Because it's just ridiculous. We live in a world where the DUI message about alcohol are very loud and clear in our society. This study presents a good opportunity to start sending out a broader message. Driving under the influence is driving under the influence no matter what the substance. That's sad that you say that, man, because some substances give you, what was that, 2,200% chance of crashing into something or somebody else? Whereas marijuana, your bullshit hyped up study made it sound like it's dangerous, but it really ain't. I'm going to go ahead and say that. It really ain't. So then he whips out this Insurance Institute Highway Safety showed a similar disparity in attitudes towards marijuana and alcohol. Like I said, the message that alcohol and driving is a dangerous combination is well entrenched, but marijuana isn't viewed quite as negatively. Yeah, because people know it ain't that fucking dangerous. They know that you drink a couple drinks and it gets hard to even walk and talk, let alone operate machinery and cars and shit. So what are you guys trying to do? Are you guys trying to totally fucking misinform people at this point with this bullshit? All right, so University of Texas study published earlier this year which found an increase in fatal crashes in Colorado and Washington after legalization of recreational use. Although the authors concluded that the increase wasn't statistically significant. And by the way, what'd they say? The increase in fatal car crashes happened after recreational use. That didn't even test anybody to see if they had marijuana in their system. So they're just saying, okay, you legalize marijuana, more crashes. They pull out study after study, and every one of them is like that. The Governor Highway Safety Association published a comprehensive report in April about drug use on our nation's highway. Dr. Jim Headland said that marijuana was the drug that showed up the most of any drug in the system of drivers who died in crashes. Why do you think that they were smoking marijuana when they crashed or something? No, because guess what? This fucking marijuana stays in your system for anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days. So, of course, because marijuana is now legal in Colorado, you're going to fucking find a lot more people that have marijuana in their system. And now, when he's talking about any other drug in the system, so you got people that are dying in car crashes with drugs in their system that you can test, that only test for while you're on them. Those are the ones you should focus on. We don't even hear about them. But those are the ones that you take, you nod out at the wheel, and you crash. Not marijuana. No other specific drug shows up in amounts greater than 10%. Now, what is that supposed to mean? He's talking about amounts that they show up, not like you had 10% marijuana in your body. And then he says marijuana accounted for more than 1/3 of drugs found in testing. That sounds like significance there, don't it? I mean, it does, except for it would be over the top. That sounds way over the top. And you can't prove that any of them cases, not a single fucking one of them, was somebody that was stoned while they were driving. And even if they were, I've seen the numbers that you guys were using in this bullshit study. Now remember, this was the 37,461 people died. The federal government just announced that traffic deaths in 2016 increased 5.6%. Now they keep pushing this narrative that the more legalization happens, the more people are dying in car crashes. Some serious bullshit, guys. Has nothing to do with the other. All right, and then here's in June, another study linked legalizing recreational marijuana. This was by the IIHS. Legalizing recreational to an increase in motor vehicle crashes. Now listen to this one. The study found that insurance claim rates under collision coverage went up about 3% overall after recreational marijuana sales started in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. Nationally. So you're saying that you legalize marijuana in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, and somehow accidents go up 3%, or not accidents, but claims to insurance for accidents or whatever go up 3%, and you're gonna and that's nationwide, and you're gonna blame that on 3 states that legalize recreational marijuana. At the time, an IIHS statement noted that worry about legalizing marijuana increasing crash rates isn't misplaced, and that findings should give other states eyeing legalization pause. So now they're just trying to scare everybody. Hey, see this? They legalized over there, and the crashes went up, the insurance claims went up. Yeah, come on. No proof that any of these crashes had anything to do with marijuana. Setting clear rules and exceptions is important. These are young adults, and they need to know the rules and consequences if they don't play by them, he said. And the rule is there is absolutely no driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So put that fucking Starbucks down, buddy. I don't get it. Like, smoking weed affects your driving about as much as a cup of coffee. That's it. I think in some cases it might even make people better drivers. But you guys always have this fucking theory out there, this myth, that there's 2 kinds of drivers. One, the perfectly sober driver that never gets in a car wreck or nothing ever bad happens, until 2, there's somebody out there under the influence of something that gets, behind the wheel and they fucking crash. So, you don't even look at how many people get in car wrecks that they don't have any alcohol or drugs in their system. So, one more time, I'm going to hammer home how fucking crazy alcohol is. You can't say any of this shit about marijuana, man. 86.4% of people ages 18 or older report that they drank alcohol at some time in their lifetime. 70% reported that they drank in the past year. 56% that they drank in the past month. 88,000 people die a year from alcohol-related causes, making alcohol the 3rd leading preventable cause of death in the United States. The first is tobacco, and the second is poor diet and physical inactivity. 2014, alcohol-impaired driving fatalities accounted for 9,967 deaths, 31% of the overall driving fatalities. In 2010, alcohol misuse cost the United States $249 billion. 3/4 of the total cost of alcohol misuse is related to binge drinking. More than 10% of U.S. children live with a parent with alcohol problems, according to a 2012 study. 33.1% of 15-year-olds report that they have a drink at least once in their lives. 7.7 million people 12 to 20 reported drinking in the past month. 5.1 million people aged 12 to 20 report binge drinking in the past month. You guys are worried about the kids. We're worried about the kids, man. We don't want them smoking that devil's grass. Marijuana is harmless. It's fucking harmless, man. Show me a danger. You got a danger? Put it in the fucking comment section, please. I've been looking for the dangers behind marijuana since I started smoking when I was a kid. So whatever, man. Underage alcohol use research indicates that use during the teenage years could interfere with normal adolescent brain development. That's what they always say about weed. Half the fucking studies that they have that say that are people that smoke weed and, of course, drink too. Increased risk of developing alcohol, what was that again? Alcohol use disorder. which means you're going to drink a lot or just get drunk. You're only drinking to get drunk. In addition, underage drinking contributes to a range of acute consequences, including injuries, dangerous, sexual assaults, even more dangerous, and even deaths, including those from car crashes. Almost 2,000 college students between the age of 18 and 24 die from alcohol-related unintentional injuries, including motor vehicle crashes. 696,000 students between 18 and 24 are assaulted by another student who has been drinking. 97,000 students between the age of 18 and 24 report experiencing alcohol-related sexual assault or date rape, and 20% of college students meet the criteria for alcohol use disorder. 1 in 4 college students report academic consequences from drinking, including missing class, falling behind, doing poorly on exams or papers, and receiving lower grades overall. All things that they keep fucking saying that marijuana does to you. They have no studies backing it up. Nothing else except for scare tactics and stupid people writing fucked up articles in the mainstream press. No one gives a shit about your stupid propaganda anymore, guys. We don't fucking buy into it. It's just, you look ignorant as fuck when you push it out there. Don't you realize how stupid you look? What are you talking to, too? Like, your audience is just a bunch of old churchy people. That's not educating the kids. It's not helping the kids. You're just talking to cops and fucking judges and shit, telling them your little case, and you all feel the same way about marijuana. And it's sad. The presence of fetal alcohol syndrome in the United States was estimated by the Institute of Medicine in 1996 to be between 0.5 and 3.0 cases per 1,000. And by the way, that's one of the highest in the world. More recent reports from specific U.S. sites report the prevalence of fetal alcohol syndrome to be between 2 and 7 cases per 1,000. And then fetal alcohol spectrum disorders be as high as 20 to 50 cases per 1,000. Things that are unheard of in most countries. So there you have another, there's 15 more shocking statistics for Alcohol Awareness Month. Now, every day, 30 people in the United States die in a motor vehicle crash that involves an alcohol-impaired driver. That's every 51 minutes. If marijuana and driving was a problem, we would know about it, all right? You know why we know about alcohol driving? Because it happens every 51 minutes. Long-term alcohol use can cause serious health complications affecting every organ in your body, including your brain. Additionally, it can damage your emotional stability, finances, career, impact your family, friends, and people you work with. 100,000 people die each year from alcohol-related causes, drinking and driving crashes, other accidents, falls, fires, alcohol-related homicides, and suicides. And that's on top of the 88,000 people up here that died just from drinking too much on the spot. Excessive alcohol and consumption increases aggression and, as a result, can increase the risk of physically assaulting another person. Of the 3.9 million Americans who received treatment for substance abuse problems in 2005, 2.5 million of them were treated for alcohol use. In layman's terms, pretty much almost everybody that goes to seek out treatment for substance abuse. And I know that's a lot of it's mandated and shit, but that says something too, don't it? Approximately 17% of men and 8% of women will be dependent on alcohol in their lifetime. Because of the astonishing 88,000 deaths that are related to alcohol abuse every year, alcohol abuse is the third highest cause of death in the U.S. We know that. We heard that. 7,000 children in the U.S. under the age of 16 take their first drink every day, which is a major problem because those who begin drinking before the age of 15 are 4 times more likely to develop alcoholism than those that begin at 21. Teen alcohol use kills 4,700 people each year. That's more than all illegal drugs combined. Keep that in mind at all times. Remember, marijuana is 0. And finally, 36% of everybody that's under correctional supervision were drinking at the time they committed their fucking crime. Big surprise. It's one of the fucking leading causes of going to jail. So there you go. I don't see how there's any wiggle room on this fucking argument anymore on the alcohol versus marijuana bullshit. But what it comes down to is there's some disingenuous prohibitionists that just simply hate marijuana, that'll fucking use any kind of data and statistics they can to cook up a little fucking narrative or to try to support some kind of bullshit narrative that they already are working in the confines of. And it's just getting sad. It's getting sad to see you guys struggling to try to get anybody to believe any of this shit. But come on, man. The only people that actually wouldn't know if marijuana was more dangerous than alcohol or not are people that really are just secluded away and don't talk to anybody. They're not out in society. It's not going to affect their life either way, one way or another anyway. And as far as driving on weed goes, like, show me some real proof. Now, the best things I've seen on it was in Arizona, I think Colorado, and even Seattle, all had like some local news guy that basically like set this thing up with a cop and a fucking driver training instructor or whatever you call it, and some people with some marijuana, because it's legal in those places, be it medical or whatever. And they actually like set up a little like thing and actually did a demonstration. People smoked weed and they drove. And we've seen, what the outcomes are. Now, I would argue that even whatever bad outcomes you've seen in that thing, people were just smoking and literally jumping in behind the wheel and going, Like, I don't know, usually you got to like put your shoes and coat on and go out and warm the car up or something. No one really just just does like mad rips off of a fucking bong and then jumps behind the wheel usually. Whatever, man. I think I'm on this one a little bit longer than I wanted to be, so I'm out of here.